As of this recording, Perpetual Chaos has been online for barely, fucking barely, 24 hours, and yet I have already received hundreds of requests to review this album. This has very, very quickly become one of the most highly requested album reviews since I rebooted the Metal Meltdown last year. Y'all are going fucking nuts over this. It is fucking remarkable. Perpetual Chaos is the fourth studio album from this all-female international thrash metal crew, primarily based in Brazil. To be honest, in the past I have dismissed most of their output as being somewhat generic meat and potatoes thrash metal. In retrospect, maybe a bit harsh, but c'est la vie, no point dwelling on the past, so fuck it. And as such, I initially did not plan on reviewing this album. I figured, what's the point? It's probably going to sound exactly like the other albums. Not to mention, other people are probably going to do a much better job at reviewing it anyway. We've already seen some pretty high-profile reviews, in fact, from AMP Reacts, Banger TV, as well as some of my peers here on YouTube, like Metal Trenches. But that clearly would have upset y'all, because I have received so many requests to look at this album in the past fucking month. Y'all are clearly elated, nay, infatuated with Perpetual Chaos. And to be fair, I can see why. There are plenty of reasons, in fact, as to why someone might be extremely excited for this album. For one, it shows guitarist Prika Amaral at her most determined and confident moment yet, as she has had to quite literally rebuild Nervosa from the ground up following a massive lineup change early last year. People could also be really excited just because it's an all-female thrash metal band, and people just like seeing that kind of representation. I understand that as well. And let's not kid ourselves here, a lot of y'all are probably just excited because you're hungry for some nasty fucking thrash metal. Some nasty fucking thrash metal that you could perhaps use to escape from the dystopian nightmare that is 2021. Or maybe it's some other fourth reason that I just haven't thought of yet. I don't know. And honestly, on some level, I kinda don't care either. The point is, Nervosa has a new album, Planet Earth has instantly fallen in love with it, and you want to know what I have to say. The usual thrash and death metal influences do remain, but there's also a little bit of a black metal underbelly to this whole thing that makes it a little bit more sinister and a little bit more malicious. The end result being a very aggressive, almost smorgasbordian fusion of Creator, Slayer, Possessed, Sepultura, Arch Enemy. That sting is every bit as immediate as it is potent. Perpetual Chaos doesn't waste any fucking time whatsoever, pushing you directly into its nightmarish little universe with opening track Venomous, which is every bit as declarative and striking as you would expect. Very brutal mid-90s death metal flavor accentuated with thrash metal speed and vitality and a little bit of the mystery and the, no pun intended, venom of classic black metal. Following track Guided by Evil is a truly bloodthirsty cut as well. It sounds like some long-lost fusion of very early Sepultura and mid-90s Cannibal Corpse. Title track Perpetual Chaos, perhaps unintentionally but nonetheless, even kinda taps into the paranoia and the fear of this modern dystopia that we're all living in. Writing here, in a devastated world I see death rise upon a pile of skull, there's no salvation. Who creates disorder controls the game, the ones who spark the misery behold their rising wealth forever. The track Blood Eagle especially stands out for being one of the most sonically brutal cuts on the entire record, as guitars and drums consistently batter away, initially on a very doomy kind of sprawl and note. This comes dangerously close to death doom for a brief moment. Their performances are really great across the record as well. I like the vocals, I like the guitar work, I like the bass work. Loving the percussion, actually. Hands down my favorite aspect of this entire record. And the production is very clean as well, without compromising that kind of raw, black energy that is expected of this genre. But while the album as a whole definitely isn't as generic as Meat and Potatoes as I had expected, there are definitely a few tracks that are very generic, and they are very meat and potatoes. Take, for instance, their collaboration with Destruction's singer and bassist Schmear on the track Genocidal Command. If you had told me this was ripped off the last Destruction record, I honest to God would have believed you. This is a really lame, boring, by-the-books thrash metal number. And as the album goes on, it honestly just kind of gets a little boring for me, a little stale for me. The songs start to feel really predictable, and they start to bleed together into one big, generic thrash mess. With the exception of Time to Fight, that track does manage to stand out, but not for being good. It's just a really dumb song, honestly. It sounds like the kind of edgy, corny fucking jam that me and my friends would have written in high school. Excluding maybe Rebel Soul and the aforementioned Blood Eagle, you could pretty much trim the entire second half of this album off and lose very little of substance and quality. And that's really the problem with this record in a nutshell. Half of it is really fucking good, super fucking heavy, super fucking nasty, super fucking visceral, and the other half is just kind of bland, kind of forgettable. It's okay at best. I'd probably give this a 3 out of 5. Yeah, let's roll with that. It's decent. It's got some pretty fun, nasty, super brutal shit on it, don't get me wrong. Tracks like Venomous, Guided by Evil, Perpetual Chaos, Blood Eagle, that's all fine and good. It's produced really well, it's performed really well, but respectfully, I would argue that the album overall is just a tad overhyped. It's just not consistently clever and interesting enough for me to retain my attention. Plain and simple. Based on the comments I've seen so far, I'm willing to bet that my review is probably going to be one of the more negative ones on the internet. And that's fine. If I'm in the minority, so be it. You know, who am I to bemoan you for genuinely loving this album? And who am I to bemoan the success of Nervosa? I mean, it's very rare that a thrash metal album in the modern metal world so thoroughly captures everyone's attention. That itself is objectively pretty cool. But I'm just not fully convinced, I suppose. Maybe in the future, should they decide to evolve and expand on some of the hyper-extreme influences floating throughout this album, maybe then we'll see. But for now, this album is just kind of decent for me. Yeah, it's decent. I got nothing else to say. Fuck it. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this album? Do you not like this album? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.